Okay, in this video we're going to learn to use various pieces of code to populate our play screen. Even though we start with nothing on our stage, we're going to wind up with some things positioned in our scene. There's one thing missing here, which is the ship. So we're going to position all that in there. And we'll also learn how to import things from an Illustrator file to populate our document with. So you can use things you previously created for your game instead of drawing them in Animate. So here we go. We're going to start off. I'm going to go ahead and make a new file. So if you start off in Animate, you're going to see like this screen here, and there's all these things I may have had open previously. Yours may not be populated with anything. That's okay. And create new. So in create new, we're going to choose ActionScript 3.0 right here. And now we have nothing. So we have nothing. We should recognize a few things though. Properties. Properties tells us our frame rate is FPS per frames per second, 24 frames per second. We also noticed our size is 550 by 400. You can change these if you want to. It'll work just fine. We're later going to be making ones of different sizes to work for different kinds of platforms. So next, let's go ahead and get started and drop our content in here. So we have this file here, ObjectProperties1. You can download this out of the assignment. And if I open this, I'm just going to drop this. Actually, just drag and drop it. Be careful when you download it. Don't open it in Illustrator. That can be confusing. But you're going to drop it into your Animate project. So here's your Animate project. And it wants to know, what do I do with all this stuff, man? So here's all these layers and objects and groups and things. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to go ahead and drop this into a single animate layer. The default is animate layers. Kind of doesn't matter, but easier if you drop it all into one layer, because when you're done, there'll be nothing on the stage. So we're going to go ahead and import these, and there they are. So all these are in one frame of one layer of the timeline, and we're going to make these into symbols first, because they have to be symbols for us to control them with the code. This first piece I'm going to use is the sky, and if I push F8 or modify convert to symbol, I'm going to call this sky. I'm going to use capital letters. How we capitalize stuff is very important. I'm going to go ahead and make the positioning for this in the middle, even though that's wrong, and I'll show you why later. So I'm also going to click export this. By the way, when you open this, advanced will be closed. You need to open the advanced section and export for ActionScript. Then we have a name down here for the class, which winds up being the linkage name. So if I click this, we have the linkage name is sky. Now if I manage to forget to do that, let's delete this. Once it's a symbol, we can see it in the library. You can delete it. Let's take this one and make it the sun. I'm going to purposely make a mistake on this one. I'm going to call this sun, and I'm going to forget to export for ActionScript. Right, so here is sun. So if you forget and it does not have the linkage property after you complete it, go ahead and right click here, choose properties. It's going to open that window back up again like it was a new symbol, and all you have to do is click export for ActionScript and click OK. So then it now has the linkage set up and ready to go. Delete. This one's going to be cloud 1. Export is good. And delete. This is cloud 2. And you know what? It doesn't really matter what you call them as long as you're consistent. But for now, it's better if you name them what I name them, because later the code is going to be dependent upon this. Click OK. There's cloud 2. And it looks like I lost my sky somewhere. Somehow I deleted the sky. Oops, I didn't want to delete that. Let's make this the ship. Ship. Export for ActionScript, and OK. So I think what happened is I had something over here selected. Oh, there's my sky. I'm missing my sun though. Something happened on my sun. So my sun got lost in the transfer. So truly an accident this time, but a good lesson. If you lose something, you can just re-import it. And all I want from all this stuff is not to hold everything. I just want the sun, which is pretty sure it's this group here. That looks right. And click import. So there's the sun. Let's redo that one. So F8, we're going to call it sun. We're going to export for ActionScript and click OK. So now everything's in the library, everything has a linkage, and there's nothing on my stage. So my stage should be completely empty. The library has 5 things, and they all have linkage names. Use count should all be 0. All right, now we're going to do some programming, and the programming is easier than it sounds. It's just language. It's just a new language for you. So you're going to choose Window and Actions, or just push F9. And it opens up the Actions panel. Now the Actions panel is just a integrated development environment and it's for code development and stuff. And this one's really good because it does hinting, helps us to see what we're doing. So we're going to start off, and I'm going to start off by using a comment. Now, comments are a way of writing stuff that doesn't wind up affecting the code, so we // and we're going to use this to create some variables, screen variables, whatever, just variables. So this is just a note. It's not going to affect the code. If I run it by pushing Control Enter, nothing happens. But I also don't get an error. Now, if I do that without the //, then I'm going to get an error. It says, hey, what does this say? Syntax error, expected definition, is a keyword, something. It just didn't understand that at all. So coming back here, let's get rid of that. And the first variable we're going to make is a numeric variable. So for example, if I say variable, and my variable is going to be called SSW for stage.stage width. If I say, let's see, what this is supposed to be is the middle or the width of the stage. So in properties it says 550. So if I say SSW equals 550, that kind of works, right? So we can test that by saying trace SSW. Oops, I need to put that in parentheses, I think. Let me double check. So when I do this, it shows up down here in the output panel. Now, that doesn't really do anything, truly, but it tests that you did it right. So we can take out the trace or comment it out like this. Now, the problem with making it an actual hard-coded number is that if you change your stage size, let's say we go to library or to properties actually, and change the width to 600, now that stage.stage width is no longer accurate. So we're going to use a built-in animate variable called stage.stage width, and there we go. So now it knows how wide it is, just automatically by checking the properties of the document. Now we're going to go var ssh equals stage, and I want you to watch something here. As I type it in, it's making suggestions. It's like, does one of these things with what you want, boss? And I'm going to say stage h, and oops, I kind of got lost there. Stage, and it's making suggestions. H, okay, it didn't this time, but usually it does, and you can shorten your work by clicking into it. So now I've got stage.stage height. Now we're going to start making variables to put things on stage. Now, object variable, oops, that's supposed to be //. There we go. Create instance variables. An instance variable is when we take one of those things we made earlier that's in our library, and we're going to use it, set up so it can be used on the stage. So I'm just going to say var for each one of these things. Start with a sky. And notice that I wrote this lowercase, but over here it's uppercase. So the instance is lowercase, but the original is uppercase. So we say this is an instance of sky, and it equals new sky. So this one and this one are capitalized, this one is lowercase, and this one has to exactly match the linkage name of the object. So here we go. Let's do some more of these. Variable. This time I'm going to do it slightly different, just to prove there's another way, only one other way. So sun is a copy of sun equals new, and just a little bit more typing, sun, capitals. There we go. So now we have two ways of writing an instance variable. And let's do some more stuff here. Variable cloud1, instance of cloud1 equals new cloud1. Now I'm going to do var cloud2, copy of cloud2 equals new cloud2. Finally, last one, ship. Variable is ship, copy of ship equals new ship. And again, really important that we pay attention to syntax, capitals, punctuation, etc. It's all got to be a certain way that it expects. When I speak to you, if I manage to mumble or mess up my sentence grammar as I'm speaking or misspell something, usually you know what I'm saying. But when we're writing code, it's pretty exact. There's not a lot of room for mistakes and getting it sideways. So we should probably test this. Nothing will happen. Control Enter. Notice no output, no nothing down there. If I make a mistake, let's just put a mistake in here, and let's say I make this one capital. all the way through. Now I'm going to get an error. So it says, here's this error thing, compiler errors, and if you double click on this, it takes you right to the mistake. And you look at it and you go, okay, what did I do wrong? If I compare it to previous things that didn't get an error, what's wrong with this one? So ship, new ship. So what other errors could I make? If I have the wrong punctuation, let's say I leave out the equal sign, I'm going to get an error. Object properties expecting semicolon before new. So what that means, if I double click on it, it says new, it wants a semicolon. It doesn't actually want a semicolon. It wants an equal sign. So sometimes it says it wants something it doesn't. The lines end with a semicolon, so it thought that I was at the end of a thought, and it wanted a semicolon for the end of a line, where sometimes you might have a line that starts with new. So that's just creating instance variables right there. Make sure you follow the syntax. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to make them go on stage. So I've got a comment, put them on stage, write whatever you want there, practice comments. Okay. And now we're going to say add child. So add child is something we're going to use a bunch right now. Because I'm lazy, I'm going to double click this and copy it. So add child sky. Let's just test that. So when I say add child sky, the first thing I notice is it gets placed on my stage, but it doesn't look right. Something's wrong with this picture. One of them is too small and the other is placed wrong. So if you look over here at your library symbol for sky in the library, there's a centering mark in the middle. So what I'm going to do to change that centering mark is, right now I'm in scene 1. If we double click on the icon next to sky, we're now inside the sky symbol. I'm going to take this object and use the align panel with align to stage checked to align to the left and the top. So now the positioning of it is going to be always the 0, 0 is the centering mark placement. So when I run this, control enter, it's at the top left. Now it's kind of wrong still because the size is wrong. So when I go back into scene 1, and I'm in scene 1, frame 1 where that A is, F9 opens up my actions panel, and now I'm going to use some math. So I'm going to say sky.width equals stage.stage width, you may recall that one. Sky.height equals stage.stage height, SSH. So now if I run it, oops, something went wrong here. What went wrong? Something went wrong. Height. I spelled height wrong. So when you spell these words wrong, they don't work. Great example of an error. And you also may have noticed that before I fixed that height was not blue and this one is blue. So that usually indicates an error. So if I run this, do we get an error? We should get an error, but we don't. But anyways, I'm going to spell height correctly, H-E-I-G-H-T, and now it looks right. So whenever you have an error, that things don't work the way they should, check your spelling, check your syntax to make sure you got it right. Now let's add some other stuff. So we're going to use other math to build in the pieces. We can only bring in pieces that have been instantiated with instance variable up here. So now I'm going to build in something else. I'm going to say, let's see, I think I paste or copied add child. There it is. And I'm going to say add child sun. And sun will now be placed right there, which is not where I want it. So I'm going to just numerically give this a place. And I'm going to say sun.x equals 135, just some number. Sun.y equals 200 or 100 or 75 or some number inside the screen. And there it is. There's my sun. Now there's other ways of placing things that work pretty well. And using the same idea, if I say add child cloud1, and then I say cloud1 dot x, and this time instead of using numbers and hard coding it, I'm just going to say stage.stage width divided by 3. We'll see how that works. Cloud1 dot y equals SSH divided by 3 also. Who knows? Let's see how that works. Now notice that it's almost in front of my sun there. So I want to try and position that to see which way does this go. Is the stacking order from this down or is it from this up? And it's actually what things get added first are going to be in back and things added last are in front. So let me just position this one slightly different. Instead of 3, I'm going to do 4. And so you can see the cloud is in front. All right. So now you can add in your other objects using the same method, using numbers or fractions, or you can even do multiplication. So if I say instead of divide by 4, if I multiply by 0.25, same thing, right? Divided by 4, 0.26, typo. There we go. So add in all your things. You want to have 2 clouds, you want to have a sun, a sky, and a spaceship. And that's how it works. Enjoy the process. You're learning how to build games. Good for you.